do, which is to connect with other fellow participants as well. And please note that this workshop will be recorded for future reference and for those who are unable to attend. Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Yara. Okay, so for now, if you remember what we did last week, I asked some of you, I mean, all of you, all of us here to rate yourself from 1 to 5, how you are feeling this morning. But for today, in the chat box, please tell me your topic of research, or maybe if you have not drafted one yet, or if you have not drafted one yet, maybe a topic that you're interested in doing a research paper. And who knows that a few might share same or similar topics, or maybe can help one another in giving resources and such. I will give you probably like 30 seconds to 45 seconds to do it. So in the chat box below, write down maybe your topic of your research or something that you're interested in. Okay, so in hopes that some of you may share the same research paper or maybe the same topic. Okay, so thank you. Oh, early childhood education. Okay, I see. Oh, okay. Oh, waste management. AI utilizing, hot topic. AI, hot topic. Okay, great. Thank you so much for your responses, Papa Ibu and everyone. Carbon tax, economics, and natural resources management. Oh, very interesting topic. Okay, that's great. Arabic language, education, enhancing critical thinking. Wow, that's great. Effect of pollution. Wow, that's a lot. Thank you everyone for your responses. I can see you guys are also very enthusiastic on doing your paper and drafting your paper, literacy and identity construction. Great. Thank you everyone. So now the reason why I asked the topic of your research, it is because for today's topic, we'll be discussing about drafting research paper introduction and salient features of publishable academic English. And we hope that through today's topic and session, which will be expanded by our speakers and mentors for today, we will encourage you and get you moving to draft your paper, okay? So, okay, before I call on our speakers, let me introduce them to you all, okay? So our first speaker would be Paul Nerney, and said Paul Nerney designed, taught, and coordinated courses in English as a second language and English as a first school language for the Center for English Language at NUS. He also worked under the Provost office to design, teach, and coordinate writing and critical thinking modules for the University Scholars Program and University Town Residential Program. And more recently, he has conducted writing workshop for graduate degree candidates and junior faculty in Japan, Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Thailand, the Philippines, Hong Kong, and of course in Indonesia. And he's also a mentor for the U.S. Social Science Research Council's Global Scholars Initiative. And we have two speakers for this session. The second speaker would be Susan Lopez Nerney. And Susan designed, coordinated, and taught language. She also taught writing and professional communication courses for undergraduates and graduates in the Center for English Language Communication at the National University of Singapore from 1992 until 2013. And she has conducted writing workshops for graduate degree candidates and junior faculty in Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Thailand, Philippines, and Indonesia. And she is also a mentor for the U.S. Social Science Research Council's Global Scholars Initiative. So with mentors with their sphere and their skills, we're so excited for Paul and Susan to do their presentation. And thus, without any further ado, I would like to invite Susan and Paul to open our workshop this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, well, Shannon, first of all, thank you for those very, very, very kind words. And let me just I just have a few things to say to you guys to help get things oriented. So first of all, greetings from Singapore. Both Susan and I are very happy to be working with colleagues from Indonesia who want to bring an Indonesian perspective to issues in their respective research fields on a global scale. So I think that's a very important thing. This whole workshop is very important for that reason, that you guys have chosen to really take your particular topics, your ideas about the topics, those findings, how those findings create new understandings of your topic, and really get it onto a global into a global conversation in ways that will help to really improve the descriptive and explanatory, and perhaps our understanding on in a much more nuanced kind of way. This morning, Susan and I will be answering questions that you have about revising academic research papers for content and for wording. If you'll take a look at the first slide now that I had, you'll see that our video talks have focused on, okay, there it is, have focused on basically revising and redrafting the wording and organization of ideas. And as you can see here, this goes back to actually looking at later planning and drafting strategies. So in other words, we're coming from the point of view that you have already started working on a draft, and that you're going to be now revising certain decisions you made about organizing core information into a text and then wording that information into a text. So we'll be looking at that. Now, in my case, what I'm going to be doing, is I have focused on selecting and organizing ideas into a research paper's introduction, because writers regularly identify introductions as the most difficult section to write in a newspaper. And that judgment is really backed up by the fact that introductions are ideationally and rhetorically the most complex part of a research journal article. So if you'll take a look at the second slide, my second slide, you'll see how this double complexity is mapped out for you. So could we have that second slide now? Okay. Do we have the second slide up yet?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Shannon. I think I've lost my screen here.
So we're in the second slide.
Oh, sorry about that. Hang on. Oh, sorry, guys. That's embarrassing. I don't have a video, but I have a.
Could you please share it first and then share it again?
Okay.
Oh, there we are. Thank you. Okay. Okay, there we are. Okay. Okay, and if you could put up, I'm sorry, if you could put up the second screen. Okay, there we go. So I was talking about kind of the double complexity that we see here. So basically, there's in an introduction, as you saw in the talk, there's five. There are five kinds of core information, and as I was talking about in that video, first of all, your statement of the research topic will be embedded into a literature review. Why is that the case? Well, it's because you're approaching your reader with a very particular question. In other words, what does my research community currently know about the topic, and why does that matter to my community? The second thing is you have a research gap, and we talked about that in the talk. And once again, this is embedded into the literature question, to the literature review, in order to basically try to answer a second question: what is currently not well understood topic, and why should that be better understood? Then you have a research answer. In many cases, you'll actually find that your research answer has been discussed in the previous literature. And if that's the case, then what you're trying to do here is you're trying to say, what is a new understanding about this topic that has emerged from my research results, my research findings? Finally, you have an organizational forecast. This does not run through the literature review, but what it does do is it points out what has to be argued about the new understanding so it's comprehensible to readers. And so that's what we were looking at. And today, hopefully we can, you can ask questions about these questions. You can ask questions about the research introduction, because if we can straighten out a lot of the problems with introductions, basically revising the rest of the paper, the rest of the sections of the paper is going to be a lot easier than if you don't do this kind of initial work. So with that, I'll give this over to Susan now. All yours, Susan.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. As Paul said, I'm Susan Nerney, and I do hope that you have had a chance to view our lectures and that you've had enough time to think about the ideas that we spoke about, and that now you have questions about the content of our talks. I also, Paul mentioned this, and I do also want to add my thoughts on this, that Paul and I are very interested in doing this project because we feel that Indonesian voice should be heard. And being able to publish, at the moment, being able to publish in English journal publications is very important for your voice to be heard. Okay, so we are hoping that by doing this workshop and being able to answer your questions, that we will be able to help you do this. Frankly, in the workshops that we've done already in the past, the feedback we've gotten is that, yes, you've helped, but I think that help needs to continue. So thank you for being here, and I hope that we will be able to help you indeed. So, as Paul mentioned, his talks, our talks, his and mine, focused on how to effectively communicate your research findings in English, and that now you want to publish the result of your research in, hopefully in an English journal. While Paul focused his talk on the content and organization of your paper, the focus of my talk was the language of your paper. Language, okay? In particular, if you recall, the title of my talk was The Salient Points of Publishable English. Note that I said publishable because what I'm saying is that by doing the things that we are highlighting or talking about, you may increase your chances of publishing your article. It's not a guarantee that it will be published, but by knowing these points, you will be able to revise your paper, assuming you have written one, and then to be able to increase its chances of publishability. So, without much ado, I'd just like to quickly review the essence of the main ideas in my talk. And okay, basically, in my talk, I focused on what I call the salient features of publishable academic English. And I zeroed in on six rather. Firstly, the academic style, clarity, cohesiveness, consistency, and conciseness. I put the last one, error-free grammar and mechanics, because I am assuming that we are dealing with language that is free of errors in grammar and mechanics. So among the 5 other features, can I have the next slide now, please? Given the work, and we've done quite a bit of work on this, I will work on the papers that we have seen. I have noted that among the 5, the biggest problems really are clarity and cohesiveness. So if you noticed in my talk, I focused quite a bit on these two, especially clarity, because everything is based on that. If you call Paul Nerney and Paul Kotoska, and I think the other Siddharth, I think, focuses on the fact that your paper should be clear. Okay, so clarity and cohesiveness are the 2 most important things in your paper, the language aspect of your paper, and therefore you need to focus on that. The consistency is a little bit of a problem, but not as big as problems as the clarity and cohesiveness. And the other 2, the last 2, academic style and conciseness, are a bit of a problem, but they're not, they're very easily dealt with. So with that, I hope you can remember what I said about these points, and that now we look forward to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paula and Susan. Now,
Thank
let's move on to our Q&A session. And you might have watched some videos beforehand for the supplementary materials. And once again, there are some house rules in keeping the Q&A session conducive and also effective. So if you have questions, you either do these 2 things. Well, the first one is put your questions in the chat box, and I'll read the question to Paul and Susan, or you can use the raise hand button on the screen, and I'll call your name, and you might directly ask your question to the speakers. Okay, so this is a Q&A session time. So it will be great if we ask questions, while Paul and Susan are here, right? So this is time. Okay, we have Ibu Penny, and then after that, Ibu Ira. Okay, Ibu Penny, silakan.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul and Susan, for the very nice, compact and important slides that you have made. I'm Penny Hanggarini from Jakarta. I have a question. I used to write for an opinion for a newspaper, so it's opinion editorial. I found that there is a differences between writing for an op-ed for a newspaper and writing for journal articles. So I would like to ask you, how can we write in a short period of time, to write for an article, for journal articles, because it is not easy in writing an article for a journal. Sometimes I also mix up. Sometimes I have a different way of the order of my work. I mean, in writing for journal articles, sometimes I always think about the opinion first, and then I going back to the data, and I try to do it back and forth, and it's quite confusing, and of course, time consuming. I think that maybe this is because my background and my experience in writing an opinion editorial that makes me confused. Maybe Paul and Susan can help me for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Penny.
Yeah,
Okay.
could I take the lead on that, Susan?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, what you're talking about here is the differences between a researcher acting as a public intellectual who basically is explaining to a non-expert audience of citizens about how research and possibly policy as well. I think we can put that into the mix as well. How these are actually affecting people's ability to solve social, political, economic problems in their community, right? So I mean that's what you're doing, and we researchers do get involved in doing that, and especially throughout Southeast Asia, the idea of being a researcher in an ivory tower who only just deals with things in the abstract. That's not the way we operate here in Southeast Asia. Many of us are actively involved in research, but at the same time, we're actually involved with informing the public about what's going on with research. So that's what you're talking about here. But you have different audiences here, and I think this is the big difference you have to keep in mind as you're writing your research paper is that when you do the research paper, you have a topic, and there's something about that topic that literally does not make sense. There's something blocking us researchers from being able to describe the behaviors and characteristics involved in that topic. Also, we're unable to explain the relationships between different aspects of the topic. We can't explain them. We literally can't explain it. Understanding currently does not allow us to do it. Our understanding is actually blocking that. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, if we skip over and we take a look at you as basically a public intellectual commenting through the media on things, then what happens there is you're dealing with a topic that's very, very well understood. That we feel is well understood. There are researchers who have worked on this, and they have actually been able to describe things we weren't able to describe before. We're able to explain relationships between things we're describing, which we could not do before. Also, there are policymakers who have taken on our research, and they have formulated policy based on our research as well. So you might be throwing that into the mix as well. So that's what's happening. But to go back to what you're saying, when you're behaving, so to speak, as a researcher, what you're doing is you're trying to focus on something that's poorly understood by your research community. not policymakers, not the public. You're not concerned about those guys at all. You're concerned about people in your own research community. So you're talking to researchers. You're not talking to the public. You're not talking to policymakers. So that, I mean, I think if you just kind of keep that in your mind, because oftentimes, and this is where I think this is where the confusion lies, because again, as I said, we researchers, aside from doing research on things that are not well understood, we also deal a lot with the public. We deal, and we're also teaching as well. I mean, that's also part of public education. Basically, is also dealing with the public in a different way. But we're doing that, and we may also be trying to influence policymakers in the government or NGOs, et cetera, different organizations. So if you just kind of like cut those people out for now, say, I want to focus only on something that's really poorly understood, but because I've done some research here, I have research findings that can actually help us to be more descriptively adequate and more explanatorily adequate than we currently are. So
Okay.
that would be the first general thing I'd say. Susan, over to you. You look
Okay,
like you want to
I'm dying to get into this conversation.
go, girl.
Okay, good. All right. See, the thing is, you see, the way things work, when you're writing a journal article, you have limitations, right? You only have so many words that you can use. When you're writing a book, depending on what kind of or a monograph, the genre has its limitations. And unfortunately, you have to stick to that. And when you're writing an article in the newspaper, I'm sure you have the same kind of limitations. All right. So I want to take you back to one of the really basic things that all of us need to remember, that what we are doing is we are communicating. But given the conditions of your communication, where are you communicating? In a newspaper, in a book, in a journal? Then there are certain restrictions. If you are communicating to whom? Are you communicating to people who understand your problem? People who do not know? People who are interested? People who may not be interested? And thirdly, you have to know why you want to convey this message to them. And frankly, if you're doing research, let's say on forest deforestation, okay? I mean, if that's your area of research, I'm sure you have so much to say. You have so many issues to deal with, but you cannot share all your information in one go, because you have to write an editorial, which is very different from a research paper. A research paper presents information that you have found out. And also you want that paper to be understood by people who already know or may know little about your topic. So I can see your problem. Oh, the other thing too is, and I've seen this situation before, because I'm sure you feel very strongly about the issues you're discussing, right? And you want to, what you call, advocate. You want to push that issue. You want people to do something. But it's very hard to do it in one research or one editorial. You gotta say, no, here, you can tell everybody that, okay, I'm a researcher in this, I've done this, but in this particular piece, this is what I'm doing. So then you don't have to deal with the theoretical background of your paper. You don't have to deal with the history. I'm sorry, but that's the way life is. There are limitations. Yeah. So you must decide who it is you want to talk to, why you want to talk to them, before you decide what you want to say. Then, knowing that you've limited the scope of your piece, and hopefully it will be more helpful to the people who read it. Does that help?
Could I just add one more thing to that?
Sorry.
Because Susan was talking about your work as a public intellectual, which is really, really very important. But just going back to the research paper as well, what I would say is you've probably done a research project, and if it's medium scale or even large scale project, you probably have several different topics. for the research paper, which is only 5,000 to 10,000 words, typically speaking, okay? One topic and one topic
Yes.
only.
Yeah.
Does everybody see my finger up here, pointing my finger? Okay. Because oftentimes what we're trying to do is, as Susan said, we've done so much work and we're working with several related topics, but honestly, we can't fit all that into, we can't fit it all into one paper. So you have to choose one topic,
Yeah.
okay? And that's the one you're going to work on. In terms of developing the topic, you have to decide what kind of a research paper you're going to write. Is it going to basically be a paper that focuses on the relationships between the research topic, or maybe it's not that. Maybe what you want to really focus on is you've come up with a novel or new methodology that helps us to collect and analyze data in a much more nuanced and detailed way. So maybe you're not really worried about you're not worried about the research findings per se. You really actually want to focus on this new methodology you've come up with.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not that. Maybe what you really want to do is you're not worried about the topic or the methodology per se. What you're worried about are the assumptions underlying your research community's understanding. In other words, the theory behind this. And you're testing theory. You say, okay, is our current theory descriptive enough or explanatory enough, or do we have to change this somehow? Hey, maybe it's not just that. Maybe we got to get rid of the theory. We've got to replace it with something else. Oh no, wait a minute. Maybe it's still even something else. We need to basically defend our current understanding from somebody's claim that our current understanding is not descriptively or explanatorily adequate. And you can only choose one of those things you're doing.
Yeah.
Susan wants
Okay. I'm sorry. Having said that, I do think that you cannot put all your ideas, all the things you want to say in one piece. My advice to people like you and people who are doing research is to plan your publication plans. So you say, first I will do this, then I'll do this. Because really, putting everything in one article will not help you. It will diffuse the focus of what you want to say, and what you will produce is not going to be helpful to anyone. So I was just thinking, as an academic, you've got a plan. First, I'll do this, and then I'll do this, and then plan your entire, sorry if you can do that, plan your entire output before you say it. But do not try to put them all in one. You will not succeed.
Actually, Penny, you said something very interesting when you were describing what you do as a person writing an editorial, for example. You
Yeah.
said, well, I take this idea here, I take this idea. You said you're mixing them up. I think it's a great idea just to basically in a phrase or maybe a very short sentence. Here's my idea here. Here's my idea. Here's my, and so it's all mixed up. But then you can just on a piece of paper, you just say, okay, I want to do this. And this is related to this one here and this one here, but hey, it's not related to this, so that's out. Okay. Now you don't kill the baby, however. What you do is you just take that idea, you put the idea you're not going to use,
Right.
you just put it aside because it can be used in a paper later on.
Another paper.
In another paper later on.
Okay,
So
yeah.
I mean that idea you were saying being mixed up, that's actually great. That's good.
Yeah.
But you just want to record what you've done so that you can then
Focus.
look at it and then decide, yeah, these two things really are connected together. This third thing is connected to that. This 4 and 5 not so connected, maybe kind of relevant, but not directly. So push
Okay.
this
All
away.
right. I think we can move on.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. Well, Penny. Anyways,
Thank you very much for your question, Penny. You're not
Yes,
alone, by the way. We've heard this question before.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul and Susan.
Okay.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Penny. Next, I will call Ibu Ira Darmawanti. Ibu.
Hello, my name is Ira Darmawanti. I'm from Surabaya. First of all, I would like to say thank you for this opportunity, for Akis and also Susan and Paul. And I would like to ask, actually, this question is related with the last week about the Indonesia. I already put my in manuscript that Indonesia. My research is about Indonesia context, and I put in as a case study, and then yes, I'm still get the feedback that is not getting to the international international attract to international things. So in which way that we can our research can be look at as international things. So I put like the example or the result of, for example, the OECD, because mine is related to the video history curriculum, the past curriculum. That should I put like the report or the result from the OECD or UN Teams PISA or other things. And another question, if I get another opportunity to ask another question, you mentioned last week about the difference between national and international research is about practical and theoretical things, and how to reach the theoretical theoretical things in our research, because I feel that mine is still practical, that maybe not too much interesting to international scope in the global things. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ibu Iri, right? Iri?
Ira.
Ira,
Yeah,
Ira.
yeah.
Okay, just off the top of my head, you see, the thing is, sometimes when you're working too closely with your topic, it's very important to you. It's very important to the people around you. But you want to make the people far away from you understand and sympathize with you. Okay? That's your job, to make the issue that you see and understand and you feel very strongly about, you have to make it relevant to the people out there. Okay? However, I mean, I was just thinking, this is what IFIS does. Because there are people out there, I mean, I really do believe there are people out there who are interested in what's happening in Indonesia. Even though it's a very small aspect of life there, because it is life. And if you, that's your job, really, to make it relevant to people out there. Now, you may have a limited audience, or maybe a wider audience, depending on the nature of your topic, but you need to know what you really want to tell these people. You cannot reach everybody. You cannot have a sensational book right away. No, I mean, especially if it's something very relevant, but it's very important. And that's what you want to make sure, that people see this, because it's important to this setting, and it may have a relevance. It has, not may, but has a relevance to life outside Indonesia. That's your job as a writer.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, and can I talk a little bit about, well, how do you actually do what Susan was just talking about? So you have a local situation where you're talking about the history of the use of video in education. Is that correct? In Indonesia.
Yeah, I use the old video to see the teaching practices that implement the curriculum in the past.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to go from local to non-local with this thing, what you need to do, I think, is actually to do some reading of the literature.
What's happening?
Yeah, what's happening elsewhere? I'm willing to bet. I mean, just from what you're listening here, I can see this topic developing already. Get my hands in this. Okay. So, anyways, no, sounds like a very interesting topic, honestly.
Yeah.
So what you need to do is you need to take a look at what people elsewhere in the world are saying, in the journals about the same thing, people who have the same kind of interest, and then basically
related literature.
Yeah, the related literature, in other words, and look, basically you look for common features, the kind of things that you were looking for, were the kind of things they were looking for. Then, when we look at that, you kind of take a look at, there may be certain things that you have found in your research findings that would actually help these guys answer questions that number one, either they have not asked, but they need to ask, or number two, they have asked these questions, but they were unable through their research findings to actually come to satisfactory answers to these questions. And that's where you that's where you join with them. So that you're talking to kind of a larger audience elsewhere. Now, because we're in Southeast Asia, I think the first place to start, actually, even though Southeast Asia is very, very large and very diverse. I mean, Indonesia is not the Philippines is not Myanmar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, very, very different histories. But nevertheless, we as professional educators, I mean, despite the differences in our countries, there may be certain situations, certain situations where we're facing very, very similar kinds of problems. We're looking for answers to these problems, and that I think you need to go in then and start to look at the literature with a very, very targeted view of what people. In other words, other people's case studies. You were mentioning you've done a case study. So what you want to do is you want to look at other case studies elsewhere in the region. You might also, if you want to get real, if you want to get real crazy about this, you might want to take a look at Africa, Anglophone Africa, where people are speaking English in Africa. You may find some real surprises there. And then, in answer to your question, I think Paul Kotowska probably mentioned about. You said that a lot of the international. If I wasn't there, I didn't listen to it, but I've heard this guy. We worked with him for years and years. I know this guy's thinking and stuff like that, though. So he was basically saying that that international publication is oftentimes concerned with theory, right? So what you could do here is when you take a look at your own research findings, okay, your own research findings, and you find that in other places in the world that these research findings are either confirming what other people have said, or it's basically saying, no, it's not just confirming, I'm extending our understanding so that my understanding here and the understanding of other case studies has now opened up this big area in between. And this is a new area. This new area of understanding is actually going to inform and change the thinking that people have been talking about theoretically on an international level. You could actually find that you could actually suggest that maybe these small findings that we have in my study, plus other studies I've seen elsewhere, they're actually suggesting there has to be a change in the way that we generally understand whatever the research topic is on a theoretical level. Okay, so I mean in a very, very broad sense, that's very suggesting. But I'm willing to bet that if you do your reading, that you're going to find something where you can basically say, well, here's how my findings change other people's situations, who are doing similar things to what I'm doing. But when you put what you've done and what they've done, you may actually be able to find that there's an opportunity to actually see changes to the general theoretical understanding that's being discussed on beyond Southeast Asia, in Europe or the United States or Australia, et cetera, et cetera. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we live in
I'm
hope.
sorry, you had another question, or you had two questions, or you had only one?
Paul already answered about the theoretical, the last.
Okay, all right, okay, all right. Well, good luck with your paper.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ibu Ira. Let's go to the next question. Can I call on Ibu Selfie Stephanie? Okay, Ibu Selfie.
Okay, thank you,
Ibu
Shannon.
Selfie.
Is my voice clear there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, hi Susan, hi Paul. First of all,
Hi, Ibu
excuse me
Selfie.
for turning off the camera at the moment because I'm outside. I have one simple question about the writing. For example, if I'm at this moment writing the two form of writings at the same time, a different one, an article and a dissertation, and I want to refer one to another. because they are on different topic. Both of them are different topic, but somehow they're still related, and still some data are the same and some findings might be the same at some part. How to refer to another or using the same ideas on both, to avoid the self plagiarism, because both of them are unpublished yet at this moment. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, that's an interesting question. You want to go ahead, Paul, or
Yeah, I mean,
let's keep
start
it
off.
short?
The simple, I mean, the simple, straightforward thing is on your dissertation. So this is on one topic. The article is on basically a second topic. The topics are probably related though, right? I mean, they're not the same topic, but they're kind of joined together, right? It would probably be something like that. I think though, to avoid self-plagiarism, that you would simply be very, very clear
Yeah.
in your footnotes that
Yes.
where the information is coming from. If it's coming from your unpublished dissertation,
Yeah.
you would actually just mention that it's from and if you're if you're doing the article and you want to refer to the article in your dissertation, you say, well, in this unpublished article, this manuscript, I've said this. I mean, you could do that, but just make
Yeah.
sure that you cite. That's all.
Yes.
And then you've done your duty.
Yeah. I think basically to acknowledge
Yeah.
that this work is also being done in a separate study or something, and you can put it within your text or as a note, as a footnote.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Does that
you.
help? Okay.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Selvi. So Susan and Paul, we have questions, lots of questions in the chat box. So let me read out the first one to you. So this is from Anna. She's joining from Thailand. And she said, my question is about how high-ranked journal articles tend to use sophisticated wordings. So is it something that is somehow required to enhance the cohesiveness and the clarity of our paper in order to be publishable? Thank you. That was her question.
That's yours, Susan. Go for it.
Okay. Actually, usually a journal article, I mean, actually the person who should talk about this is Paul Kratoska, because he's the one who deals with publication from a journal editor's perspective. But usually in a journal has, and this is public information, they tell you what they're focusing on, what they're interested in. So if, let's say, this journal is interested in migration and this journal is interested in ecology, and you're writing a paper on ecology, then you go to the ecology journal and then see what their requirements are. Okay, so the focus of a publication depends on that publication. Nevertheless, even if these journals have different goals, purposes, focus, everybody has to write an article that really, I mean, I hate to say it, fulfills the most critical aspect of a research paper, which is it has to be clear. I mean, that's what the salient points is all about. The things about, that's why I said it's really the most important thing. And part of clarity is that not part, but essential to clarity is that your article has to be understandable from the audience that it's meant to reach. Okay, so you're saying, well, should I write it this way? Or what? No matter what you write, it has to be clear to the audience that you want to reach via the journal you are using. Okay, and things like academic style. Okay, grammar, definitely it's important. Okay, that's essential. But academic style, conciseness, cohesiveness, especially academic style, it changes. It changes, all right? And depending on the area, if it's anthropology versus science versus social sciences, there's a very wide range of expressions that is available. And if you recall in my talk, you as a writer decide which you want to go with. Do you want to say I or you want to say we? It's up to you, but you have to be consistent. Okay?
Susan,
So, yeah.
can you talk about authenticity? Because I think that's really important here.
Okay. But that's not part of this thing here. Authenticity.
I think it's at the bottom of the question, actually.
Okay.
You know, like,
See,
yeah,
because, all right, Paul is bringing up an issue that's very close to my heart, which is related to ChatGPT and AI, which nobody has raised yet so far, but I'm sure it's in your minds. And a lot of people have asked me, and recently when we were teaching graduate students in the NUS, they said it's very accessible, it's very easy, it's very useful. Okay, and I said, of course, there's a use for ChatGPT and AI. They're very useful to help you communicate. But, and here's the big but, what is communicated is truly only your own, you as the writer. If what you are saying is already known, there's no point in saying it again, right? So the bottom line is that you have to generate the ideas that you want to write about. And this is where authenticity comes in. You have to ensure that it is speaking, it is writing as only you can write. Because if you're writing like everybody else, what's the point? Okay, so the way I would, people say, can I use ChatGPT? Sure, you can use it, but make sure that it is doing it in the way you believe it should be done.
here's a test for that too. Because although a lot of what we do when we're writing a selection of vocabulary, a selection of grammatical structures, syntax, tends to be the same and everything. But the thing is, everybody has their own very particular
Own way, yes.
own way. Their own particular ways. They have patterns of lexis, of vocabulary that is very, very specific to them. They basically have syntax, grammar, grammatical structures for sentences that's very particular to them. Now, the whole world will not know this, but the way to test this is if you have 5 of your good friends who are involved in research, and you give them an article, you give them 2 articles. One is an article you've written, but your name is not on it. The other article is also an article that somebody else has written. And you say, which one is mine? It's about the same topic. Which one is mine? I'm willing to bet that if they can say, oh, it's the first one. It's the first one. That's you. And it's not the second one. And you say, well, how do you know? And then they'll say, well, gee, I don't know. This just sort of sounds like you. Sounds like you. Well, they're reading something. They're not speaking. So there must be something. In other words, you've been very successful. So your friends can tell what you've written against what somebody else has written. Now you may not really want to do that, but that is actually the test. My point is that you have a very, very particular patterns of selection of lexical and syntactical selection that is only you. And
okay.
The whole thing is you need to, and it may take you actually years to develop that sense of writing, but you have to keep writing and writing and writing so that, because that's partly where your authenticity comes out. Of course, it is really, this is new information. Nobody's ever seen this before. That's authentic, that's for sure. But so it also at the style. Yeah, although we have a common style we share with all other researchers, especially when we're writing in English, there's an irreducible difference between you and everybody else. And you have to become aware of that.
Okay. I'm sorry, can I pick up that point, Paul? Because, all right, even though there is that need, I believe, in authenticity, there are set ways of expressing this authenticity. And you must know when something has been said clearly and when it's not clearly said. That's why you attend workshops like this. So you know what are the standards, what is a clear idea? What is an unclear or not a cohesive idea? You have to know what are the requirements, and then you work within those requirements. And to do that, I'm sorry, but you have to keep doing it. You don't succeed in the first time. And sorry, but that's the problem with writing well. You cannot do it well in the first time, or in the first work. You keep developing it with the help of others.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just remember, you're also
But you
trying
develop, hang on, Paul, gradually you develop your own voice, but you have to know the standards within which you have to operate. It has to be 5,000 words, only 10,000 words. It has to be clear, consistent, cohesive. You have to know those things. Then you can operate and express your ideas. But you have to know what are the limitations of the mode of communication you have chosen.
Yeah, and be very careful if you're using ChatGPT or Grammarly or one of these things, because what it's going to do if you let it is it'll reach into your mouth, it'll pull your tongue out, it'll throw it on the floor, stamp on it, laughing as the blood comes gushing from your mouth. Okay, so be very careful. You can use those tools by all means but don't let it take your voice.
Don't let it take your voice away.
Yeah, and your authenticity away. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Susan and Paul. I think it's very clear for all of us here that AI is supposed to be just an extension and just the media, senior media, but not the whole idea of it. Okay, so Anna said, thank you, Ibu, Susan, and Paul. I found your explanation very encouraging for us as non-native English speakers. So yes, even I myself found it very encouraging, and it's clear.
Good.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to the second question. It's from Muhammad Rudi, and this is more of a technical question. He asks, if I want to cite an article or a journal, which part of the article should I cite? And is it the result and finding section or in conclusion? And if my research background is similar with the article's background, can I cite the background? So it's kind of more of a technical question from Muhammad Rudi.
Okay. That's an interesting, that's an interesting question. Let me just
I think I wish we could see it,
Yeah, but no, that's okay. I think one thing we can do, one thing we can talk about is this. If we start with the introduction, if you remember what I was saying about that it's the first thing you do in an introduction to a research article, you say, here's what we already understand. So this is one section. So basically within a few sentences, actually 1 or 2 sentences, you're going to basically explain to people, well, here's what here's what my research community understands about the research topic. We're clear on this. There's general agreement on this, so forth and so on. And you might actually, if things have been pretty straightforward, you can probably just leave it at that. And then you move on to basically saying, well, but here's something we don't understand about it. Now, but let's say that, and this oftentimes happens to us, you have a research topic, people have worked on this research topic before. The previous literature has really presented a very kind of complex picture of the topic. Now, you don't have time to talk about, all you can do is just introduce by identifying what the complexity is. But later on, before you actually start talking about how you collected and analyzed data, before you present your results, before you actually start to argue those results, it might be a good idea to actually put in a background section between your introduction and between your method section. So there's a background section where you begin to explain why has this complexity. Previous research has talked about this, but they've actually made things more complex. There are things here that are still not really, they're not fitting together quite well. Well, they fit together, but there's a tension. There's a tension between them. They're pulling against each other. They're not fitting together nicely. Okay. So you might have to explain that in a background situation so that your readers can understand this. This is particularly important if you're not only talking to people in your research field who work on your topic, but you're also talking to researchers in your field, but they're working on other topics. They might need that background section. Okay. So that it becomes quite important about that. Now, as to what you would actually, what section of the previous research would you actually cite? It depends. I would go for the conclusion, because in the conclusion of an article, writers are oftentimes saying, okay, these are my takeaways for you, dear reader. Okay, this is what they're saying. These are my takeaways. I don't care if you forget everything else that I've written, 2 minutes after you finish reading the article, but there are certain ideas about the topic I want you to keep in mind. Okay, and so if that's going to help you to explain the complexity of what's going on before, then that would be a good place. That would be a good place to look. The other place to look, of course, is if previous researchers have also put in a background situation as well, then you can basically borrow from them, and they're in other words, you can use their explanations of why this topic is complicated, and you don't have to do any more work. But what you're doing is you're helping people the people who work in your field, but they're not working on your topic, understand why you and the other people who work on your topic are working on your topic, basically. So that those would be my two suggestions.
I have a practical suggestion. I mean, you see, I think, as a writer, sometimes, one of the most common problems is that you have too many ideas that you want to express, and you don't know whether you should include them all, in which case then you lose the focus of what you're writing, or you don't include what you must include, okay? But anyway, here's, as I said, a practical suggestion. One of the things that we always tell our students is that you have other people, talk to other people, have them read what you have written. And it really helps if this person, the people who you ask to read or review your paper, are also familiar with your topic. But sometimes people are very wary of showing the work to others for various reasons. But I do think it helps to have somebody look at your paper and give comments on, after reading your paper, say, I think, I don't understand this. And then you can use their feedback as to help you modulate or to help you write your paper better. So we always recommend that you have a writing group if you can, and then bounce your ideas. Let them share your ideas, share your work. Don't be ashamed to do it. And then you will eventually get to a relationship where you can very frankly talk about, I really meant to say this, but do you think I'm saying correctly and all that? But share it with other people, and I think that will help. Okay.
All right. Okay. So hopefully the answers are pretty clear for you, Muhammad.
Does that help, Muhammad?
He's here. Yeah, Muhammad is here. Okay, so thank you, Susan and Paul. But before we move on to the next question, we'll have like a 5 minutes break.
Okay.
Maybe to stretch a little bit.
Yes, that's a good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's have a 5 minutes break. But everyone, please don't leave. Yeah, 5 minutes. Don't
Okay.
leave, okay, because we will still continue.
Okay.
And then announcement. Can we please for the participants, can you please write your full names so that we can do some absences? Because there are a few people that have the same first name, so we do not know which is which, who is who. So please write your full name. So yeah, 5 minutes
Yeah.
break, everyone. Don't leave.
Okay.
Stay here. We're going to continue in 5 minutes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Can you hear me, Shani?
Yes, I can hear
Okay.
you. Okay, everyone, while we're waiting for the others to come back from their toilet break, sorry, toilet break. Thank you for giving your full names in the chat, but could you please also change your name in the Zoom, your Zoom name to your full names as well, so that we can have the screenshot and also the log chats from the Zoom.
Hmm.
So could you please do that? Yes, thank you very much. Okay, we have like about 30 seconds
Paul.
left. Let's get the other. Okay, for those of you who are just chiming in, coming back, could you please also change your name in your Zoom name to your full names as well, so that we can also have like double notes on it. Yeah, keeping you time. Okay, so I'm sure that everyone is here. I hope. Okay, all right. Okay. All right, let's move on. So once again, we encourage you to ask questions. Okay, we still have quite a few time actually. So no problem if you have more questions or if you have a follow-up questions on previous question, go ahead. Susan and Paul they're here to help all of us on the writing of your paper. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. This is from Amrita Saraswati. And she asked, from my short experience, I am still struggling to tackle the problems that were mentioned earlier about clarity, cohesiveness, and consistency during writing an article. So is there any suggestion to plan it from the beginning? So that's the question from Amrita. Susan, you're still muted.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you for that question, Amrita. And I guess that question is directed at me. So if I get you right, your question is, can you plan for clarity, cohesion, and cohesiveness? I think that if you let these clarity, cohesion, cohesiveness, if you worry about them before you write down your ideas, you will have a more difficult time. And if you worry, my general advice is don't worry about your language until you put down your ideas and you know exactly what you want to say. In fact, at some points in my teaching career, I would even tell my students, if you cannot express it in English, write it in your native language. But put your ideas down first and then work on the language. If you recall in my talk, I mentioned that you deal with the language in the revision stage. Content first, then organization, then language. Because you cannot deal with these things simultaneously. I hope that answers your question. Yep.
Bu Amrita, I'm pretty sure Bu Amrita is here. Probably she can expand a little bit. Yeah, Bu Amrita, silakan.
Hello. Yeah. It makes sense that
Sense?
if we think about it from the beginning, we will
No, don't.
overwhelm with it.
Yes, especially because you're trying to deal with your thoughts and you can express it in your own language, even though it's broken English or what, just write it down and then deal with the language later. Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't really matter. I mean, when you first put it down, it's all going to sound like crap anyway. And you just look at it, you say, well, oh my God, I actually wrote that. I can't believe that this is so embarrassing. But honestly, this happens. Look, I'm 77 years old, and I still do this now. My first draft is caca, basically. And I mean, really, honestly, it really is. But you have to go through that. You have to kind of go through that process. So, I mean, let it be a humbling experience, not a humiliating experience, but let it be a humbling experience. You say, okay, I can make this better. And you will. You actually will as you refine your ideas, as you're looking at the connection between ideas and the way that they get organized, then a lot of the wording will naturally come to you. The wording will improve
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if I must add, your mind cannot handle the two things at the same time. Really, one will take dominance over the other, and you will not move forward. So I say ideas first, then wording.
Yeah. And just
Okay.
give you some
And you may be working on the revision of the wording for a long time.
Mm.
But it will just get better and better. Okay. Does that help? Does that help? Okay.
It
All
helps
right.
a
Good.
lot. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
All right. Okay, thank you, Rita. So let's move on to the next question. Hold on. This is a question from Diana Rosalind. This is another technical question. She asked, hello, my name is Diana Rosalind, and my question is, should I put literature studies at the beginning or at the end of the paragraph of my introduction?
That's your
That's her
question,
question.
Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Actually, I think as you could see from my diagram, what I am suggesting, well, okay, basically I'm a theoretical linguist, but I actually deal with discourse, basically discourse. Okay, so from what I've seen, people who are writing, the literature review actually is the backbone to the whole introduction. It's where you basically take your statement of the topic, you take your statement of the research gap, you take your statement of the research answer, and then finally the points that are going to. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Okay, so you take those three kinds of information and you basically embed it into the literature review. As I said, though, the first time you say, well, here's what we understand about the situation when we're talking about the topic. When you talk about the research gap, here's what we don't understand. And when you talk about the research answer, you're identifying, well, here's what I found, that's different from the previous research. So it's actually it's kind of like you're having a conversation with previous researchers, saying, well, here's what they found, here's what they understand, here's what they don't understand, here are the answers that they had to what they didn't understand, but then here's my contribution to that as well. And you're not trying to describe it, you're not trying to explain it, you're not trying to defend it in any way. You're trying to identify what people said. You're trying to identify what you're saying, what you're adding to this. All you're doing is identifying. No description, no argument, no explanation, no justification, nothing at all. You're just identifying that. So you keep it short and sweet. If you have to, as I was saying before, if you have to, for example, explain the complexity of what other people have said before you can put that into a background situation between your introduction and your methodology section. You can do it that way,
Okay.
and stuff.
Can I have- Okay.
Yep.
I do think sometimes people feel that they have to put out everything that they have read on the subject. And I've had students who have told me that, oh, my teacher told me to put down all my sources so that I can show them that I have indeed read a lot about this topic. But that's not what you're doing when you're trying to publish. You're trying to get the essential argument for why people have done this, they found out, but I am doing this. So you don't have to say, if like a topic has been very much researched on and there are about 100 papers, you don't have to mention all of them. If only to meet a requirement. You're there too, and this is your job, to pick out the most relevant points that have been found out by related studies, and make your paper, your ideas, stand out and useful addition to what exists. That's your job. It's not to list down, oh, I've read all the 100 papers here. No.
Okay. Is it okay is I just identify because another person said that you should add your opinion of after you wrote that. It show like if you not add the description, it show that you have no idea, and then you have not read their article. You just
Okay.
put their name over there.
No, I think, to be honest, you have to put, if you haven't read, don't put. And I know, again, one of the strategies that I've read about is sometimes you put the names of people who are very important in this field, even though you haven't read. Okay? Please don't do that. Make sure that people you are citing, you are familiar with their work. That's one.
Yeah.
And you don't put everybody. You put only the ones that are relevant. The word, really, I underscore that. Relevant to what you are doing. You're using their findings to help your finding more important or relevant to your reader.
And, one thing you can do here is that when you're reading different things, in other words, you've got a whole bunch of things that you've read, but you're only going to use some of the one that's most relevant and related to your research topic. But then once you've narrowed that down, what you need to continue to do is you need to look, who are the people who are saying pretty much the same thing about this, and you basically then summarize what they have said, in a short sentence. At the end of that, if you notice this, you'll see people listing like multiple sources that basically say. So basically what you're saying is I've read all this, I've read every single source of the 5 sources, for example. I have 5 sources here. I've read every single one of these sources. I understand what they're saying. I'm saying that now this summary, this 1-sentence summary, basically encapsulates the basic idea that these people have. And then of course your readers can look at this and they say, well, I don't think this is it at all. You're way off base and stuff like that. I mean, and if you get that kind of reaction, then that's probably a problem. On the other hand, if people say that, wow, yeah, I've read these 5 sources also, and gosh, she's did such a nice job and just condensing it down into this one very, very nice phrase or this very, very nice sentence, all in her own words. Gosh, she's smart. I wish I was like this. But then, seriously, that's what you want to do. You have to be able to show these are the people who have the same who have exactly the same take on the topic. Now, on the other thing, you might find a whole group of people, these people have an entirely different take on it. So you might want to say, these guys all agree with each other, but there's a whole group of people who disagree with them. And once again, you have to do the same thing. What is their, what is their basis of disagreement? You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to disagree with it. That's not the point. So you don't have to use words like, in the wonderful article written by so and so. In other words, you're not there to evaluate. In a research article, you're not there to evaluate that. That's the way that's the way people talk when they're doing a state of the field article. This is what's going on in the whole article, and you're saying this wonderful person. And sometimes I think it's an old-fashioned way of lecturing when the lecturer would get up there and and give his or her opinion. Well, this is a great reading. Oh, this is wonderful. They'll go on like that. Actually, it's old-fashioned. It's old-fashioned. We don't do this so much anymore. But pointing out, here's where people agree, here's where people disagree, and you put the agreement and the disagreement in a very, very short sentence. And you have to work on the wording of that. You really have to work on that to make it work. But that's how it's done. Okay. So.
Okay. Thank you, Paul, Susan.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Yes.
Hey,
Hope good luck.
Yeah. Good luck.
I mean, thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Diana. Let's move on to Pak Munawir. Pak Munawir,
Yes,
silakan,
yes,
Pak.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to question some of my in my mind. So thanks, Ibu Susan, for your advice, and Pak Paul as well for your advice. It's really nice for me. And I just wondering about the boundaries of ethics on co-authorship that's when we writing together with the groups or the group of projects we writing together. And so what's your mind when you edit some of the perspective of editor, when you receive the some of article in the part of working together with some of groups? Is there any boundaries of ethics when we working together as group to writing as the part of co-authorship? Thank you.
Right. Are you
Okay, can I-
are you a STEM person?
Are you in STEM? Are you
Technology,
engineering?
engineering?
Oh, yes, I working in the public policy and STEM. So sometimes
Okay.
I working together, sometimes I working with the groups.
Okay. All right. I think the ethics of that is varies.
Yeah.
And I would say the very beginning, if you're writing with a group, before you publish or you submit for publication, I think you should all get together and decide who gets primary authorship. And by that, I mean whose name should appear first in the list. So is it ABCD or CBDA? But I think you have to agree to avoid future problems.
Yeah.
Okay. So generally, the person whose name appears first is the primary author, which means that if the article is cited, they will cite that person's name and then the rest et al. Okay, so that's one. Secondly, I know that when I used to work with engineering students, they said that the last person's name is put there because he is the person that any inquiries should be sent to.
Yeah. In other words, his email appears in the article.
His email appears, so he's the one who will handle the questions about the article.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what in your field what the conventions are, but I think it's good to know that, especially if you are working as a group.
Yeah. Do you
The third point I want to mention is, I know, let's face it, there's some people who maybe they didn't do the work, but they want their names to appear. That's unfortunate. That happens. But that's why I do think, especially if you're a student working in a group and that happens very much in engineering and STEM, you're working as a group. But I think you all have to come to an agreement as to whose name should appear first and therefore should carry the citation.
I was just wondering, are you normally the lead person who puts the group together in the first place?
Yeah. Sometimes I lead the group. Sometimes I just part of the group. So that's some of group projects and we writing together.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would, I mean, I basically say, follow Susan's advice. When you're leading the group, you just call a meeting and say, here's what I want to happen.
Yeah, you decide before you publish.
I'm the group leader, and then the group, you can work things out. I mean, for example, like Susan and I were teaching at NUS one semester ago, and we happened to have STEM students. That was the first time I ever worked with STEM students ever. It was really eye-opening, on some of these questions. But sometimes, and I don't know if sometimes like they had just students who were given little bits of data. Okay, they were given data and they were asked to analyze the data. That's all they did. That was their contribution. And then the lead investigator, or sometimes it might be 2 or 3 investigators together, would take that work and they put it all together. Now that student actually did get credit for that, not so much as an author, but I mean, there's this whole thing about people, especially people in lab sciences, where they want their students in as soon as possible, and so they will give them credit, but they tend to be further down on the list and everything. So just explaining that to people, if that happens to be your case, then that would be the case. And also, this may not be for you, but I'm just going to throw this out to the group in case there's anybody doing medical research. Susan and I have a whole bunch of nieces and nephews and grandnieces and nephews who are in medicine and in medical school, and they also get to work on projects as well. But once again, they're not always the writers per se, but they're analyzing. They're either collecting data, maybe that's all they did if they're really new students. Sometimes they get to then analyze the data later on. Sometimes they get to do little write-ups and things like that. But they all get included in there. So again, I think if you have a group, and if you make that clear, I think it does help to make the analysis more robust. You know, 'cause you're overseeing what these people are doing, so nobody gets to make a serious mistake, you know, in analyzing data or collecting data. But you know, it's a good experience, and it's good to have people's names on it. But they tend to go down to the end of the list. So I would just make it very, very clear. If you're not the senior lead, but you're kind of an experienced person, you might just want to say, wait a tick here. You know, maybe we should have a little discussion. What do you guys think? You know, if you can do that, it really solves a lot of problems right at the get-go, rather than later on with people feeling very bad about their contributions not being appreciated. Or, you know, that's it.
So, Paul, the agreement is inside the group, right? When we're talking together as a group, so we have to set the agreement inside the group, right?
I
So it's
think
not
that's
about the editor or about the journals.
No.
All right.
I think
No.
who contributed to the work, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you
Hope
very
that
much.
helps.
Yeah,
Okay.
in other words, you guys make the call. Don't leave it to the editor to make the
All
call.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take control.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
okay, I'm being silly now, but you get the point. Okay.
Yeah. Sometimes the different thing with when a leader is just monitoring and you know, as the project manager, but the researcher is a different thing, right?
Yeah.
So we have to deal inside the group. So thank you.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, this is an afterthought, that if you want, at some points, you can basically say the staff that did this, but not as authors. You know, you may include in the glossary, in the references or notes, you say who were the people who did the project, and you know, so they're not necessarily their work is credited, but not as authors. So you don't have to put all their names as authors if they didn't do it. And you can check with the editor on how you can do this.
On how to do that, yeah. So in other words, you're presenting yourself as a group of people who are cooperative, collaborative, inclusive, you know, and that you know, and that I think when you publish your work and that other people just see, you know, you'll never even make a mention of this, but I mean, we all that's what, as researchers, we want cooperation, we want collaboration, we want inclusiveness, rather than opposite of these things where people are all going after each other. You know what I mean, and stuff. It just it makes our work more credible.
All right. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Paul.
Good luck.
Susan.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Looking
nice to
for
meet you.
meeting with you in
Okay.
Yeah. Good question, though. Good question.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Elliot. Okay, let's move on to, we still have lots of questions about Susan and Paul, so we hope we still have like 30 minutes probably, if but however, if we cannot answer some of the questions, the unanswered question will be given to you and then by us, and then after that you'll discuss it and send back the answers to us. Okay? All right. So the next question would be from Bapak Koirul Fahmi, and he's asking about, he said, I am doing a research on Javanese culture in which I will try to combine it with colonization. And he's asking, what do you think about it? And can you give some advice? Because he said that I really want my topic to be exposed to the world and to be great in the world. That's what he said. So maybe if Pak Koirul is here, maybe he can explain it a bit further, but maybe Susan and Paul can answer first.
I'm sorry, can you say one was colonization and what was the other topic?
Javanese culture. combine Javanese culture and colonization.
colonialization.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, let's hear a little bit about the topic. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So
No, I
Paco,
was just
Paco,
yeah. Where is who's the person asking the question?
Koiro Pami. He's here, but bye.
I'm here. I'm
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Actually, you have a very interesting combination of topics. We've seen papers like this, but I'm sorry, you've got to make a decision. Which, in your familiarity with the area of Javanese culture and colonialization, you have to study both. And you have to say, because you want to publish, right? Let's be strategic here. Which is the area or the topic that would be most attractive to your reader or to an editor, one that would make your paper publishable. And you, more than anybody else, should know that, because you have the authority on these areas. Because the two are very equally interesting. I find them equally interesting.
And the
Javanese culture alone or colonialization alone are interesting topics, but the combination of both in your area. Are you an anthropologist? What is your field?
Actually, because I'm studying in arts, especially in fine art, so that's my artwork I wanna have a concept about that. So I wanna mix my original culture is Japanese culture, and I wanna put the another concept in my concept in artwork.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so I think what needs to happen here is you're looking at basically a confluence between Javanese culture, well, art, and basically the and the process of colonialization. So it would be basically how did colonialization influence art, or it might be how did art influence how did Javanese art influence the process of colonialization?
Okay.
There's influence here.
I'm sorry, can I ask you, at what point are you in your research? Have you finished? Are you just starting?
Still going, I think.
Okay, because it really depends on really, I get down to the basics. What is your thesis statement? Are you going to say, I'm sorry, but until you finish your work, you may not be able to answer that question, because you're still trying to find. You have, it seems to me that you have an idea of how you can basically make your artwork desirable, correct?
Yeah.
Is that your intention? And you're using research specifically by trying to link Javanese culture and colonialization, which is a very political and very attractive topic. So you're trying to link them both. But watch this now, because politics of colonialization is really, how would I say?
Very wide.
Very wide.
Really wide.
And so is art. So is Javanese art. But that's why I find your topic very interesting.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So but I think you need to think about this a little bit more. What do you really want to accomplish?
Okay. Yeah.
You really need to answer that question. Do you want to sell your art? Do you want to convince people that Javanese culture has been very much influenced by colonialization? By whom? Because Indonesia has been colonized by several things, right? Several populations. So it depends. Okay. So until you have the answer to that question, I suggest don't write anything. Just read it. No, serious. Because if you recall what Paul said, you have to answer your question. What is your main idea that you want to convey? And you have two very interesting, very complex phenomenon you are looking at. So
But the-
sorry, but you got a long road ahead of you yet.
Yeah,
Unless
but
you have a hypothesis. Do you have a hypothesis? Do you have any thinking right now on what is the connection between the two? Do you have a hypothesis?
No, that I'm still a little bit confused about that. How to mix? Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
I'm
not
sorry, but
really sure about
yeah.
my hypothesis in this
Ah,
time.
I think you need to know, you need to figure out for yourself, and you talk to people in your field.
mm,
What is it that would
Yeah, yeah,
make these two areas of very interesting topics, bring them together? Because Javanese art, you have architecture, you have painting, you have, not just
yeah.
Javanese art as a whole. I mean, there's a whole world of art there. So,
Yeah, thank
sorry,
you
but you
for
still
the
need,
advice.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, think about the main connection you want to do between these two very interesting and very wide topics.
Okay, I know. So that means what should I do with this topic, right? In this
Yeah.
setting.
What do you want to accomplish? Why are you so curious? Just tell me now, what about Javanese culture do you want to focus on?
Actually, on
Javanese art, rather.
yeah, Japanese art, because I'm from Jepara, so Jepara is a popular with relief, and I wanna and relief and with one person have a long story with the colonization. So that's why I wanna like put it together in this one concept, but the two on this concept is so really different, but I really want to mix them.
Why do you want to mix them?
Yeah, because I want to make some or any unique ideas, or it's very new in my mind. I think because I've in my research I never found someone have mixed together between Javanese
There you
culture and
go.
especially on art and
That's your research gap. That's where you start.
yeah.
yeah.
In other words, as you say, you didn't find any information in this,
Yeah.
correct? And maybe your investigation will be the first one to investigate the answer.
Yeah. I hope, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
But
Okay, so
I
thank
think
you for the
you're still
advice.
beginning, yeah?
Yeah, really beginning.
Okay. Good luck.
Yeah, but you're on the right
Oh,
trail.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
when
yeah.
you talk to your content mentor, I think you will have a content mentor, right?
Yeah.
For your paper. Yeah. See if you can get a more clear direction as to where your thesis statement can go.
Mhm.
What is the gap and how you can fill that gap.
Yeah. Yes, nice information.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Good luck.
So thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you Pak Koirul. Ya, untung Bapak langsung tanya. Right. Okay. So let's move on to Bu Resti. Bu Resti has two questions, Susan and Paul, but then it's followed up by another question by Ibu Regina. So it's like three questions in total, but I'll read out the first question to you first. So from Ibu Resti, she asked, how many authors are ideal for one paper? And do the composition of master and PhD author affect the quality of the paper? That's the first question. You want to answer that first, or let me read out
Offhand of
all
the
of it?
topic. Okay, Paul, usually there's no limit, but you really don't want to put too many people in there. You only want to put the primary people. And as to whether they're MA or PhD, I don't think it's important. What's important is the contribution that they make to your work.
Yeah.
Okay. But as I said in a previous question, if you have, let's say, 20 people working on this project, you can only name 10. There's always the provision for notes or references, and sometimes you have a glossary, but it doesn't go into the glossary, but some kind of background information to be indicated somewhere else in the article, not in the authorship. And MA or PhD, I don't think it's really, I don't think that's critical.
Mm.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, what is the discipline that this
Yeah.
study?
What discipline is that?
Oh,
Sociology?
Ibu Reti, are you here? Ditanya disiplinnya apa, topiknya apa.
Engineering.
Oh, engineering.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah, Paul worked with engineering students.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think the important thing is, since it's people doing their PhD and people who are doing their masters, once again in US you would see this happen a lot, and especially if they were doing basically lab-based studies.
Yeah.
That basically the PhD students and MA students would be given a chance, given exposure to doing data analysis and data collection, and then doing little tiny write-ups that would then go into the larger article. And so I think it's and the other thing, I wonder if this, I'm just wondering if this this piece of research that you're doing, is it some sort of, would it be some sort of multidisciplinary approach? Like everybody doing this work is an engineer, but there's also a concern with basically maybe the social applications to this, maybe in medicine or in fabricating chips or something like that. That seems to be also at play here. I'm just wondering about that, because it's
Anyway, the
Yeah.
the point is, don't think that authorship, in saying who are the authors, should all go into under the title, but they can be included under a note that pertains to who contributed to the
what? Yeah.
paper. Yeah.
What's the second question anyway that was asked?
The second question is, she asked, we usually have a good paper published in a prestigious journal, but the citation is low. So she's asking, how can she improve it in terms of the quality of her writing?
I'm sorry, can you read that sentence again, the question
Sorry.
again?
The question is, she said, we usually have a good paper published in a prestigious journal, but the citation is low. So her question is, how can she improve it in terms of the quality of her writing of the paper?
Off the top of my head, the citation does not necessarily reflect on your work. Okay, and if it's a prestigious journal, not all the articles in a prestigious journal get a lot of citations. I think Paul Kratoska can also say that. And depending on who is citing, where you're being cited is probably important. And so how you can improve your citation has to do with, I would say, the relevance of your subject. And of course, the quality of your writing is usually attended to by the journal. They will not accept a paper that has got poor quality writing.
Yeah, that won't happen.
So you can you can get assured that if you get published by a journal, tier 1 journal, that you're okay. Now, whether you get cited or not depends on the relevance, the importance, which may change. Maybe tomorrow it will be different. Okay, so it will depend on the relevance of your paper, of your work, to the readership that you have targeted.
The other thing too is to think about framing the paper in terms of the audience. Like if the paper is a highly technical paper and it's aimed only at people within your discipline who work on your topic, you're probably going to have a rather low uptake of citations. On the other hand, if you widen the framework so that you're including other people in your discipline who work on things, work on different topics, then of course you may be getting a higher citation rate. And of course, the other way you can go in all of this is you can actually be writing to people in researchers outside your discipline, but they also have similar concerns, with chip fabrication, for example. I mean, like you might actually be looking at people, not so much the technical questions about how do we actually fabricate the chip so that it can do a better job doing this or doing that. But it's basically you're talking about then the applications of these chips, for people who are not even researchers, but they're people who would actually be using these chips, or there's a possibility they might want to use the group's chip in order to do something that nobody's really thought about doing yet. And then of course you get even a wider,
in other words, you widen your readership rather than just a particular focus on the group. It's one way.
So don't worry about your language so much, because as Susan says, the journal will not let you get away with it.
Journal takes care of that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And the third question regarding the same topic.
This regarding the same topic is from Ibu Regina. Mungkin Ibu Regina, I see you open your camera. Maybe you can ask directly your question. Biar lebih jelas.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Ibu Susan and Bapak Paul. Thank you. I want to ask about if I write an article and the citation of the former article or the the literature review is not from that journal that I want to submit it. Is this okay if I didn't
of course. Of course. You're supposed to have read widely on your topic, not just articles that are coming from one journal. I would assume that that's what the research in your field would expect. Now, you're not catering to the needs of the journal. Okay, I mean, you really
because
not writing.
I heard about that as a writer on that journal that we want to submit. We have to cite the article before the archive article from that journal.
I think that's a strategy.
Oh,
but I mean, really, that's a strategy if you want to increase your chances. But in terms of the quality of your work as a research in the field that you have chosen, I don't think that's I'm not saying important, but I don't think that's critical.
Oh, okay.
I think your main job really is to make the topic and your question relevant and interesting to as wide a readership as possible. You're not there to help the journal increase its readers, I think.
No.
Anyway, that's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer.
Okay. All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Regina. Terima kasih. So we're on to our very last question. Susan and Paul.
Already, wow.
Last question of the session. So this is from Bapak Ambar Sasi, Galuh Ambar Sasi. and he said he's a historian. And he said that I am interested in the oral history of marginalized communities on the Indonesian border. However, I am having difficulties obtaining comparative literature. So is it possible to write with a limited literature review? Thank you very much.
Yes,
Yes.
it certainly is. In fact, it all becomes part of your research gap when you say
Yeah. It's
very,
yeah.
there's been very little previous work done on this area
Yes.
in particular, and then you list the complications that are going to come up because we don't have a very comprehensive research history to this particular question. We're really starting at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because we cannot make any assumptions about what we're doing. And so my study is positioned in order to give us some very, very basic insights into whatever whatever the topic happens to be. Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually one that if very few, I mean, there has been little study done on your topic, then that could be an advantage.
Yeah.
If you can show that your topic is very relevant. Okay, so that's one. Make sure that your topic is relevant, and two, that you have indeed done the work. You have indeed looked all over the place for previous studies or previous work done before you say there's been little study done in this area. And if you can establish that, then that makes your work more relevant and more valuable to the people who are interested in that topic. So it's not a disadvantage. You could work it so that it is an advantage, but make sure you do the work first. Right?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul. Mungkin dari Pak Galuh, do you have any addition, Pak? Kalau Pak Galuh di sini. If not, then okay. So that was the last question
Oh,
for
okay.
today's session.
Okay.
That was the last of it. Yes.
Thank you very
But
much.
yes, thank you to Susan.
Thank you
and
very
thank you to
yeah,
Paul.
thank you very much, everyone. Just a point I want to make. I think it's very helpful if you are able to talk about what you're doing. I know I always say this, writing is a very lonely activity, very solitary activity, but it will help if you can find people that you can share your ideas with, because then that will enrich your understanding of what you're doing, help you through this very difficult process. So good luck, everybody.
Thank you, Susan. Paul, do you have any closing remarks as well to encourage and cheer on all the researchers here?
Well, I love the questions that we got. They were really, really good questions. I mean, they obviously show that you really have a good grounding, what it means to be a researcher and everything. That the topics that we did hear about today are good topics. I'm very, very eager to actually see what the rest of the questions look like. So Shannon, by all means, send them on, and you guys we will try to answer those questions. And I think IFAS will be actually putting them up on their website, so you'll be able to see our answers, and we will try to answer them as soon as possible.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Once again, thank you so much to
Thank you
Paul
so
and
much, everyone, for
Susan.
your questions. Continue the good work. Continue the
Semangat
investigation.
semua.
Don't give up.
That's true. Don't give up. Banyak semangat semua. So thank you once again, Susan and Paul, and to all the
All right.
participants here who spared your time during the weekend to attend the second weekend, the second week of the workshop. But don't forget, next week we will have the last topic and the last week of the workshop. So before we close the session, we're going to take a picture together
Okay.
as a token of
Hi everyone. We encourage you to open your camera
your camera.
and we will have 3 pages. In 3, 2, 1. Smile. Once again, the second one. In 3, 2, 1. Smile. Okay, last one, the third page. In 3, 2, 1. Smile. Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Jane. Okay. Thank you, everyone, once again. See you
All
all
right.
next week.
Thank you all.
Susan and
Good luck,
Paul.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everybody. See you next week.